Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Monday class of the Theravada Buddhist Society class. And as most of you know, I'm Sister Candasiri, or Ajahn Candasiri, and this evening I'm at Milntuim Hermitage in Scotland, where outside the temperature is probably around -8, maybe even lower by now, but inside it's plus around about 15, which is about the best we can manage, but we're well wrapped up. Anyway, it's very lovely to be here, and very lovely to think of you all taking this opportunity to spend some time together to contemplate the teachings of the Buddha and the practices of Theravada Buddhism. And as usual, I'd like to begin with a short puja. And Wendy will screen share, so you'll see what it is that we're chanting. We'll be chanting in Pali this evening, and I'd like to begin by lighting the candles and the incense, which, together with the flowers, are the traditional offerings of Theravada Buddhism, the offerings that we make to the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, to the Triple Gem. Namaste Bhagava Arahan Samma Sambuddho Suakato Yena Bhagavata Dhammo Supatipanno Yasa Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Dhammayam Bhagavantam Sadhammam Sasangham Imehi Sakare Yatarahang Arokitehi Abhipojayama Satuno Bhante Bhagava Suchiraparini Bhutopi Achima Janatanupam Pamanasa Ime Sakare Tu Katapanna Karabute Patikanhatu Amhakam Dikarakam Hitaya Sukaya Araham Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddham Bhagavantam Abhivademi Suakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammam Namasami Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Sangham Namami Namayam Buddhassa Bhagavato Pupapakanamakaraṁ Karumasai. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa. Namayam Buddha Satinayam Karumasai. Tangkor Pana Bhagavan Evan Kalayano Kisato Hamukato Itipiso Bhagava Arahant Samma Sambuddho Vicharana Sampanno Sugato Kavidu Anuttaro Purisadhamma Saranti Satta Deva Manusana Buddho Bhagavati. Namayam Dhammanu Satinayam Karumasai. Sawakator Bhagavata Dhammo Sandhika Akaliko Ehipasiko Om Panahiko Pachakam Vekikamo Vinyuhiti. Namayam Sankha Satinayam Karumasai. Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Saṅgho. Uchupatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Saṅgho. Nyayapatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Saṅgho. Samikshipatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Saṅgho. Yadidam Chattari Purisayukani Yata Purisapokala. Esa Bhagavato Sāvaka Saṅgho. Ahuneyo Pahuneyo Dakineyo Anjali Karaniyo Anuttarang Punya Ketang Dokasati. It's a slightly abbreviated puja, a little bit different from what some of you may have experienced in the different monasteries. But it's a way of paying homage to the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, reflecting on the qualities of the Buddha. The Buddha, absolutely pure, free from any sense of self-interest, infinitely wise, compassionate, one who sees clearly, who knows things as they are. And we can see this as the historical figure of the Buddha and also our own inner capacity for awakening. Just putting the teachings into practice, we too can come to a similar understanding. The Dhamma, or the teachings, which point to a truth which is always with us wherever we are, whatever we're doing. It was there during the time of the Buddha, and equally it's there right now, this moment. The Dhamma is right here. And it's something that each one of us can experience directly. In fact, that's the only way that we can really take refuge in Dhamma, by being fully present with things as they are. So the teaching points, it guides us, it shows us where to look in order to experience the truth for ourselves. And then the Sangha, the community, those who've practiced well, who've practiced directly, who've practiced insightfully, those who've really applied the teachings of the Buddha in their own lives and come to an understanding of how things are and found ways of living more peacefully and happily with themselves and with each other. And so we can reflect on Sangha as the aspect of community. So all of you, we're not physically present together, but we're kind of linked through the heart. And we have this wonderful technology, Zoom, which enables us to communicate in this way and to share in this event. So Buddha Dhamma Sangha, and these are the refuges, and we'll be now giving an opportunity to determine the three refuges as are abiding in our lives: the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, and the Five Precepts, which are the basic guidelines that can support us, that can help us to live in ways that support understanding, calm, clarity, absence of remorse or regret. So there's, I'm sure most of you will be familiar with these precepts: to refrain from killing, harming any other living creature, refraining from taking what is not given, refraining from sexual misconduct, from wrong speech, false speech, and refraining from intoxication. So what we usually do is somebody makes a request. And I'm wondering if anybody would like to do that, anybody from the class who's familiar with this practice. Is there somebody who would like to volunteer to make the request on behalf of everybody else? If anybody feel able to do that? We have a standby backup. Nick has offered to stand in if nobody else feels able to do that, but it'd be nice if there was somebody who felt they could make the request. Okay, well, maybe Nick, would you be willing to do that?
Sure, I'm just unmuting myself. I'll do that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Someone has raised hand here.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Oh, wonderful. Good. I'll hand over to you then. You need to unmute yourself, Steve. Thank you.
I'll see if I can remember it. I do have a chanting book which I could go and get to make sure that I get it completely right. It'd take me 2 seconds. I just have to go to my other room and get it.
Okay, well, maybe that would be good.
Yeah.
I think it's, yeah. It's page 126 for people who'd like to look in their book. But there's also, I think, the screen sharing option.
Just let me know when you're ready.
Ready right now? Yes.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
Mayam aye tisaranena saha panja silani yachama dutiyampi mayam aye tisaranena saha panja silani yachama tatiyampi mayam aye tisaranena saha Pancha Silani Yachama.
Okay, so I'm going to recite Namo Tassa 3 times, and then I invite you to recite it 3 times, and then we'll go line by line. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I don't hear anyone.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa
Bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
I think maybe we need to stick with just the person who made the request. If you unmute yourself, is it Stephen? And maybe everybody else could stay muted because we're getting quite a lot of distortion here. So will that work for you? Let's try. So we'll go line by line. So I'll say one phrase, and then if the person who made the request would then repeat it after me, and everyone else can join in. But if you stay muted, I think that'll work better. So we've done the Namo Tassa. Now, Buddhang Saranang Gacchami.
Buddham Saranam Gacchami.
Dhammang Saranang Gacchami.
Dhammam Saranam Gacchami.
Sanghang Saranang Gacchami.
Sangham Saranam Gacchami.
Dutiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami.
Dutiyampi Buddham Saranam Gacchami.
Dutiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami.
Dutiyampi Dhammam Saranam Gacchami.
Dutiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami.
Dutiyampi Sangham Saranam Gacchami.
Tatiyampi Buddhang Saranang Gacchami.
Tatiyampi Buddham Saranam Gacchami.
Tatiyampi Dhammang Saranang Gacchami.
Tatiyampi Dhammam Saranam Gacchami.
Tatiyampi Sanghang Saranang Gacchami.
Tatiyampi Sangham Saranam Gacchami.
Tisarana Kamanani Titang.
Amayam.
Very good. So now the precepts. Anatipata Veramani Sikapadang Samadhiyami.
Anatipata Veramani Sikapadam Samadhiyami.
I undertake the precept to refrain from taking the life of any living creature.
I undertake the precept to refrain from taking the life of any living creature.
Adinadana Veramani Sikapadang Samadhiyami.
Adina Dana Veramani Sikapadam Samadhiyami.
I undertake the precept to refrain from taking that which is not given.
I undertake the precept to refrain from taking that which is not given.
Kame sumi chachara Veramani Sikapadang Samadhiyami.
Kame sumi chachara Veramani Sikapadam Samadhiyami.
I undertake the precept to refrain from sexual misconduct.
I undertake the precept to refrain from sexual misconduct.
Musawada Veramani Sikapadang Samadhihami.
Musawada Veramani Sikapadam Samadhyami.
I undertake the precept to refrain from lying.
I undertake the precept to refrain from lying.
Durameraya Majapamadhatana Veramani Sikapadang Samadhihami.
Sura Meraya Maja Pamadatana Varamani Sikapadam Samadhyami.
I undertake the precept to refrain from consuming intoxicating drink and drugs which lead to carelessness.
I undertake the precept to refrain from consuming intoxicating drink and drugs which lead to carelessness.
Imani panchasika padani silena sugatinyanti silena boga sampada silena nibutinyanti tasamasilang visotaye.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you very much, Stephen. That was well done. Lovely.
No worries.
Okay. So this is the basic preparation for us in our lives. Establishing ourselves in the triple gem, the three refuges, and establishing ourselves in a simple and essential training to support a sense of clarity, a sense of well-being in our lives. Even if it means that we can't do some of the things that we would like to do, what we learn from this is the fact that we don't actually always have to do the things that we'd like to do, that we can let go of these desires, which are very natural desires. Sometimes we feel angry and upset, we want to hurt somebody, or sometimes we feel we want to maybe use harsh speech or slightly distort the truth. Sometimes we want to engage in inappropriate relationships. Sometimes we want to have things that don't belong to us. And sometimes we want to just indulge in substances that are going to help us, or which we think will make us feel better. Obviously, it's a very short-term sense of well-being, and we have the aftermath. So it's not that these things are unusual. It's not that the precepts are very, very simple, but they're actually very supportive to us. I sometimes think of them as being just like a good friend, just alongside me, just reminding me, no, Candasiri, don't do that. That's not going to be helpful. You're going to hurt yourself as well as hurting others. Just to recollect these guidelines that we've undertaken in our lives. And it does, when we really reflect on them deeply, we have a chance to learn a lot about the different ways that we cause suffering for ourselves. So it's not a small thing. It looks simple. You can think, well, this is nothing much. And yet when we really apply them in our lives, they can have enormous, profound benefit. What is also enormously beneficial is the practice of meditation. And so I'm going to offer a little bit of guidance, a guided meditation now. And what I always encourage to start with is to take a little time to establish a suitable posture. So I'm going to sit cross-legged myself. I find that helpful, but if you prefer to sit, to kneel, using a meditation bench, or to sit on a chair, these are all completely acceptable ways to meditate. Even lying down, if you feel, if you're not able to sit up, if you have some physical ailment or disability, you can also practice meditation lying down. It can be more difficult lying down because lying down is also very often connected with sleep. And the whole idea of our meditation is that we're cultivating a lovely, alert, bright, clear mind, and also cultivating a sense of calm. So it's a kind of balance between the brightness and clarity, but also with a sense of calm, settling of the mind. So I'm going to shift again. It's better. So it's important to be comfortable as well as alert. And a sense of ease. So we're not going to be distracted by a lot of physical discomfort. I encourage you to sit with your head held up so that if your eyes are open, you're looking straight ahead. And to see this as a time where we set aside our usual cares and concerns, the worries, the difficulties that we've had during the day, or difficulties we anticipate for tomorrow. And just set those to one side for now. And see this as a time when we're just fully present with our own bodies and minds, our own sense of being, with an attitude of immense friendliness and kindliness. So we're not sitting to judge ourselves or to blame ourselves or to force ourselves into some kind of mind state that is very rigid and uneaseful, but rather we're practicing in order to support a settling of the mind. Now, there may be many distracting things happening around you. You may have been a place where there's a lot of traffic noise or police or ambulance sirens going past. Or there may be the sound of people talking in the next room, or televisions, or all kinds of things may be going on around you. And so it can be helpful just to imagine yourself. Imagine that you can create a little island of calm, the space around you, your own body, the space that your body occupies, and the space around you is a space of calm. Even if the mind is quite active, when we can really make peace with the mind as it is, that also supports a sense of calm. I'm going to offer a very simple guided process of relaxation. And then I'm going to invite you to just use the breath as a focus for the awareness. So this is something that we keep as an anchor. So we place the awareness with the breath, and we keep returning to that whenever the mind has been drawn away from the present moment, drawn into the past or into the future. But first, let's settle the body. Breathing in a sense of ease and well-being, this wonderful energy from the air, with the out-breath directing it through the different muscles of the body, thus supporting a relaxation, a softening, a sense of ease. Beginning with the head, with the scalp. Notice how the scalp is. It'll probably be feeling a little bit tight, stiff. As we breathe through, we may feel it soften, relax. The face in particular, Take time to release tension from around the forehead and the eyes, from around the mouth and the jaw. Breathing through, allowing a softening, a loosening of the muscles of the face, setting aside our concerns about its appearance, and simply focusing on this wonderful sense of relaxation, of ease and well-being as we breathe through, softening, relaxing the muscles of the face. Similarly with the back of the neck and the shoulder area. Most people accumulate tension in the shoulder area, particularly those of you who've been driving or engaging with people or focused work. You may well have accumulated a lot of tension in the shoulders, and so you gently breathe through. You may feel your shoulders actually drop as you release tension from around the shoulder area. Breathing down through the arms, the upper arms, the forearms, the wrists, palms, fingers, so that the hands rest loosely on the knees or in the lap. Breathing in through the heart center, the middle part of the chest. Breathing out through the heart center, allowing a softening and opening in the heart. Coming now to the solar plexus area, the middle part of the body. Bring that fully into awareness. Notice how it feels. There's a sensation of activation, tension, excitement, whatever it might be. We can use the breath energy to settle, to soften, to loosen the solar plexus area, the middle part of the body. Next, we come to the belly. And for this, we take in a very long, slow, easy inhalation. We hold it for a moment and then take a very long, slow, easy exhalation. And another pause before the next in-breath. Really enjoying the experience of taking all the time in the world just to breathe in, all the time in the world just to breathe out. And with each out-breath, relaxing, softening the belly. We breathe down through the legs, allowing the breath to sweep through, releasing tension, clearing, the energy of the legs, the thighs, around the knees, calves, ankles, feet. Finally, coming to the back part of the body, releasing tension from around the spine, breathing through the muscles of the neck area, beginning at the base of the skull, and little by little, letting this breath energy trickle down through the spine, washing through, releasing tension from the muscles in the back of the shoulders, back of the rib cage, down into the waist, right down to the base of the spine, so that the body is nicely upright. And yet there's a sense of ease, a sense of poise and balance. Establishing a lovely, upright, easeful, poised, alert sitting position. Aware of the breath as it happens. Aware of the in-breath as it begins, continues, and ends. Aware of the pause between the in and out breath. And then the out breath as it begins, continues, ends. Some of you may be more familiar with focusing at the tip of the nose, the current of air as it enters and leaves the body. Others may focus in the heart or in the belly. It really doesn't matter. The important thing is to try to stay with the sensations of the body breathing, using this as an anchor. Turning aside from any thoughts, memories, or plans. Simply coming back to the next breath. Using a word or a phrase if that's helpful. Buddhist mantra, Bud as you breathe in, Do as you breathe out. Or some other secular word or phrase. Just as an extra support if you find that helpful. Just one breath. Then the next breath. And if you notice your mind has been distracted by some interesting idea or memory or plan, simply acknowledge that. And with a sense of ease, sense of gladness. Come back to the next breath. Come back to the moment. The moment as we experience it, our refuge in Dhamma. Moment by moment awareness. One breath, and then the next breath. If you find that your mind is really struggling with the breath and a lot of thinking, planning, remembering, and see if you can simply make peace with that. And rather than fighting with it, just say, okay, this is how it is right now. There is thinking. It's no big deal. The mind naturally thinks. And we can be aware of that too. Aware of the breath and aware of thinking. All part of this moment experience. Always with an attitude of friendliness, kindness towards ourselves. This is how it is right now. One breath, the next breath, thinking, planning, another breath, taking it gently, kindly. In a few moments, I'll be ringing the gong for a chance just to enjoy one or two more breaths, taking it easy, really savoring, tasting each moment, each breath. You might want to have a little stretch. My rug around me. 15 degrees isn't quite enough. So I'd like to take some time to reflect on Dhamma. So it's important that we find a balance in our practice. Some of you may have heard me speak before about the Venerable Sona, who was one of the disciples of the Buddha, who practiced very, very diligently. And he came from a very pampered background and really jumped into his practice wholeheartedly. But it was a bit much for him. And after a while, he began to get discouraged and was not quite sure about his capacity and whether he was going to be able to continue. And the Buddha was able to discern that something of the sort was happening for the Venerable Sona, and went to him and said, well, how are you getting on? He said, were you thinking about leaving? And the Buddha was questioning him, and Sona looked a bit abashed and said, well, yes. And so then the Buddha said to him, well, when you were a layperson, you used to play the lute, didn't you? And Sona said, yes, I did. And the Buddha said, well, when the strings of your lute were too tight, too taut, did it sound nice? Did it sound good? Was the music beautiful? And Sona said, no, Lord, no, it wasn't. And the Buddha said, well, how about when it was too loose, too slack? And the Venerable Sona said, no, Lord, that was horrible, terrible. And so the Buddha said, and what about when you got it just right, just exactly the right degree of tightness? And the Buddha Sona said, yes, then I could make it sound really beautiful. And so the Buddha said to him, well, in the same way, with your practice, you need to find balance. If you try too hard, if there's too much tension, too much stress, then the result is not happy. You feel strained. You feel very easily discouraged. It doesn't it doesn't bring a sense of ease, a sense of well-being. Similarly, well, not similarly, on the other extreme, when you practice and when you're not putting any effort, just a bit too relaxed, falling asleep, or just the mind drifting about all over the place, not really attending very carefully, either in your meditation or in your daily life, not really very aware of what you're doing, where you are, and so on, but careless, that doesn't bring a very happy result either. And that can lead to a lot of regret and shame. Just I should have been more attentive. I should have been more careful. Whereas when we can find just the right balance in our practice, that actually supports a sense of inner calm, a sense of well-being. So it's interesting, this the importance of finding the right balance. And I'd suggest that this balance is something that we need to establish even before we begin our meditation. Sometimes we can be very anxious about our practice. We want it to be good. We want to do well. We want to be the best. We want the mind to be quiet. We want the mind to be calm and settled. Perhaps we've been on retreat and the mind has been very, very calm, and we've meditated for a long time on retreat. Sometimes if you come on retreat at Amaravati or in one of the other monasteries, if you're practicing with a group of people over a period of days, the mind does settle. But if you expect to have the same degree of settledness, of calm, at the end of a busy day, it's unlikely that it's going to be quite so calm, quite so peaceful. So to try to approach your practice not with an attitude of having to get to a particular state, otherwise your practice is no good, but more establishing a sense of, like a sense of self-respect, a sense of self-confidence, a sense of celebration, at the opportunity that you've had to come across the Buddha's teachings and to apply them in your life. Creating a space in your life, for meditation, whether at the end of the day or the beginning of the day or sometime in the middle of the day. All 3 times if you can, but if one or other, find a time that works for you. And approach it with a sense of gladness, not as a sort of scramble to make the space and sit down and meditate with the hope of the mind calming down, getting into a struggle with yourself, but more just, okay, so there's this time. This is the time that I'm going to just sit and be aware, notice how things are. I talk a lot about staying in touch. And what I mean by this is staying in touch with ourselves. And sometimes in the day, we can become very out of touch with ourselves. We become so caught up in the activities, in the responsibilities, the duties, the concerns, the worries, and this time of year particularly, there's a lot of pressure on people, finishing things off in time for Christmas. Some of you may have, masses of Christmas shopping and preparing, to have a family gathering or to get together, or there can be a huge pressure, and maybe you're getting a bit overtired. It's been a long period of working, and London can be a very stressful place, a lot of pressure, and so we can very easily lose touch with ourselves. So setting aside this time each day, for some of you maybe half an hour, others maybe just manage 15 minutes or even less, but setting aside a time, just approaching it with a sense of gladness. So now's my time to make contact, to get back in touch. How is it? How am I right now? How is the body? How is the mind? How's the breath? How does the breath feel? Can I enjoy the feeling of breathing? Or is the mind just so filled with thoughts that you can hardly even be aware of one breath? If that's the case, I suggest just taking a few very long, slow, easy breaths is good. Like when I do the belly breath, in the middle of the relaxation practice, I always intend this as a breath you can do any time during the day. So it could be part of your preparation for meditation, for settling in meditation. It can also be a moment in the day when you need to establish contact, re-establish contact with yourselves. Come into the moment. So often, particularly say with conversations, we go up into the head, thinking about the next thing we've got to do, wanting to create a good impression, wanting to succeed at something, not wanting to fail, feeling angry and upset with somebody. All the energy goes up here. And that's a terrible place to be. It's the last place you want to be. Thinking, the thinking mind. I mean, it's a wonderful servant, but a horrible master. So don't let it take charge. Instead, and I think, I'm quite sure you can do this, even in the middle of a conversation, the other person won't even notice. Just to stop. Breathe in fully and completely. Long, slow, easy inhalation. Just really feel yourself filling with air. From the belly. So the whole torso just fully expanded, and then just pause. Then, letting it all out nice and slowly. And just enjoying the sensations in the body that might come from just one conscious, long, slow, easy inhalation. One slow, easy exhalation. You could have that as a resource anytime, any place. So when you come to, you can use it through the day, but also when you come to your time of sitting, being with yourself, making contact, checking in with yourself, you could also use that as a way of just establishing presence. If the mind is compulsively going back to some incident in the day, or compulsively planning or worrying about something. It's important that we find ways to generate a sense of happiness and gladness in the heart. And I was saying to somebody the other day in one of our meditation workshops here, I can't remember at all what the question was, but the phrase that came to me that I feel is really significant is, the world needs happy people. It doesn't need a lot of people walking around with their brows kind of knitted and furrowed, a lot of people feeling tense and anxious and worried about things. There's so many concerns, so many things to worry about, that it's actually quite important that we learn how to approach these things with a sense of ease and a sense of balance. No good result ever arises from a sense of worry or anger or irritation or anxiety or concern, but only when we can actually enable ourselves to settle into Dhamma. That's where the wisdom, that's where the compassion arises, that's where the clear seeing, the way forward becomes clear. So finding that balance, finding that sense of inner ease, very important. So just taking time each day. When you put your worries, your concerns, just gently sort of pop them to one side and say, okay, I'll think about you later. I'll pick you up later. But right now, I'm going to enjoy this breath. I'm going to relax this body, this poor body that we drag around with us throughout our lives. These bodies are wonderful. I mean, maybe a bit painful now. If you're older like me, you'll certainly it'll have its share of aches and pains, and your eyes might not work so well, your ears probably don't work so well. everything kind of beginning to collapse, but it served you well. So let's celebrate it rather than hating it or feeling, beating it. We can be so harsh with our bodies and minds. So learning how to treat them with a sense of respect, a sense of kindness, giving it proper rest, giving it proper food, taking time to eat. I get really concerned. I see people walking around the street. Sometimes when I've been in London or in Edinburgh, it happens the same. You see people, it's obviously their lunch break, and they're just eating sandwiches as they walk around the street. Or else you see people in offices, on the phone, eating their sandwiches. And think, that's no way to live. That's no way to nourish the body. You need to take time and chew the food properly, taste the food, enjoy the food. It's okay to enjoy food. It's not that you're greedy. Just enjoy the food. Make sure you eat enough. And take care of your body. Treat it with respect. And we were only conscious of the eating part of it, but after we've eaten it, all kinds of other things have to happen. So we just celebrate. We thank the body for its kind of faithful service over a great many years. So to treat it with respect and kindness, to rest it, to feed it, to make sure it gets plenty to drink, exercise it, move around, enjoy moving around, rather than seeing, walking around as just, a functional thing that we do to get from one place to the other. Bring awareness to the walking, like walking meditation. You can do walking meditation, when you're in the middle of a busy day, just walking from one place to the other. So we can just contemplate the possibility of enjoying our lives, of finding balance, of celebrating our human existence. There's bringing a sense of happiness and gladness into the human realm. And it's not at all to deny the severity and of different situations, situations of war, poverty, terrible poverty, deprivation, with and the whole climate situation. There's lots of things to worry about, but can we approach them with a sense of balance, a sense of kindness? Can we celebrate our capacity and opportunity to contribute in a positive way to the well-being, to the happiness of beings in this human realm? I don't see that as being irresponsible. I don't see this as not caring. I see this as a fulfillment of our human potential. And the Buddha didn't walk around with a frown. I don't think he did anyway. And descriptions of the Buddha, he was Bhagawan, a sense of blessedness, a sense of fullness and gladness. And at the same time, a sense of tremendous compassion, and taking time to respond to people's anguish in a way that could support them and guide them towards liberating the heart from all of the suffering all of us can expect to experience in this human realm. And little by little, through applying these teachings in our lives, we have the possibility of just unpicking the ways that we get attached that can cause us so much struggle, so much suffering. So learning how to let go moment by moment, to establish presence, to establish a sense of ease and well-being for our own benefit and for the benefit of all those that we make contact with throughout our daily lives, benefit of the society, benefit of the planet. So these are just a few thoughts that I'd like to leave for your contemplation. You may not agree with everything I've said, but I encourage you to ponder it. And if there's anything that seems like totally weird and inappropriate, then maybe just carry it around for a few days and maybe it'll make sense. And if it doesn't, just please kindly set it aside. I certainly haven't intended to mislead you or confuse you or cause you any harm. So I offer these reflections for your well-being and happiness. And we do have a little time if anybody would like to comment or ask a question. You can either raise your real hand or your virtual hand, or you can send a chat message. And I think it's Nick who's going to be reading out the messages or inviting those of you who've raised your hand to unmute and ask your question. But we can take a little time of just being rather quiet, just to see if anything arises. We don't have to hurry. Is there anything anybody would like to ask?
Steve, would you like to ask your question?
Yes.
You need to unmute yourself. Hopefully that's possible. Yeah, well done. Thank you.
Hi. Oh, hi again, sister. It's good to see you. Good to see you again. Haven't seen you in a long time. Gonna say that you touched on a lot that's relevant to my question in your talk there. Like sometimes, well, I know I have these different polarized sides of myself, and sometimes I get so carried away with fantasy that it's hard for me to sleep, and maybe have to take some extra medication or something. And other times if people criticize me, I can have a bit of a reaction, And I think a lot of these problems might come down to the fact that perhaps I have a bit of an identity that I believe that is a bit kind of marginalized or downtrodden or resentful, like maybe I don't really like myself that much, But I was reading something on Facebook that said by the time you're 7, the subconscious is quite firmly established, so you can't just change it by positive thinking, So it's kind of quite hard to go, if you've had a habit that's been going for your whole lifetime where maybe you don't really like yourself that much deep down, how do you change that? And that's my question.
Very important question, because I think a lot of us go through many years of not liking ourselves very much and feeling quite critical of ourselves, very critical. It's almost as though we've got a kind of inner commentator who's constantly remarking on every single thing that we do or say. And that can be very wearying. So there's a very simple practice that I would like to recommend, something that I've tried in my life, and I found it very, very helpful. And that's to be quick to recognize when that voice arises, to notice when you're criticizing yourself, when there's a comment about something you've done or said. Whether it's a comment, oh, you should have done that better, that wasn't very good, or you should be like him, or you should be like her. All these kind of rather mean, unpleasant things that the mind tells us. And to see if you can replace that thought with something else, with another thought. It can be quite good fun. So you can pick a phrase, a kind of more encouraging phrase, and every time the mind says, you're no good, you should have done that better, just say to yourself, you're absolutely fine. So I would say to myself, Candasiri, you're absolutely fine. And, certainly there will be times when, I might do or say something that isn't very helpful. But we need to learn how to trust our good intention. So that even if we make a mistake, there is the good intention, there's the willingness to learn from our mistake. And that is absolutely fine. So we're not born perfect. Our practice, when we start our path of practice, we're not perfect. We don't have this perfect balance that I was talking about. We only find balance through getting it wrong. So you talked about getting overexcited and not being able to sleep very well, or being rather tense and reactive if people criticize you. Well, there's a need to find balance. So if there's a feeling of excitement or tension, then to find ways of calming, of settling, just supporting a settling of the mind. And sometimes that's just through simply talking to yourself in a kindly way. And it's true that the habits are very deeply rooted. The habits of self-criticism are very deeply rooted. In fact, they probably go back to when your upbringing, things that you were told when you were little. But if you really put effort into interrupting and to transforming those habits of thinking, the change can happen quite quickly. So as I said, it's a matter of picking a simple phrase that you pop in. If somebody has criticized you and you're reacting to that, then it may be that your phrase can still be applied, you're absolutely fine. It may be that instead you need to take time just to relax. So the long, slow, easy exhalation I spoke about earlier, the sort of putting down breath, can be a good way of countering that tendency to react. So just a long, slow, easy breath, and just let yourself settle into a sense of well-being. You may have reacted in the past. Somebody's blamed you. You may have reacted and responded in a not so skillful way. And it can be helpful to use the memory of that as an incentive to try something different, rather than just repeat the same pattern.
Yeah.
And if you do find yourself repeating the same pattern, then try to learn from it. Try to do it with mindfulness. Try to notice what you're doing, so that next time you can catch it a little bit more quickly. So these are just a few suggestions of ways of working with the mind that can actually be quite fun. It can be like a game, or like cultivating a skill. So we can see this as an opportunity of cultivating the skill of awareness, the skill of mindfulness, the skill of living carefully and responsibly, which doesn't come from a feeling of tension. Oh, I mustn't do that again. I really mustn't do that again. If you make a mistake, but rather you did the best you could. Okay, relax, calm down. It's all right. So learning how to speak to yourself with a sense of kindness and encouragement, and just celebrating the fact that you're on the path. This is a really wonderful thing. Is some of that a little bit helpful to you? Do you think you can try some of those things?
Oh yeah, it's really helpful. Yeah, similar to what my teacher recommends, and I like the kind of phrase that's quite. I like using a phrase, so I'll try that. Yeah.
Find a good phrase, and just do it. Repeat it. So get into the habit of interrupting any miserable thoughts with whatever the phrase is. You know, you're absolutely fine. You're absolutely fine. Candasiri, you're absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Or whatever phrase you want to use.
Okay.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you, sister.
Thank you for your question.
Thanks, Ajahn.
Can I ask a question, please?
Yes, of course, Isa. You're next in the list in line.
Thank you. Hello, Ajahn. Sandeep is really good. Your meditation class today is my first time I've been to one of yours. Thanks so much. It was really beneficial. I just wanted to have your advice about when we meditate, and sometimes we are actually feeling it's going really well, like we are relaxed, we are in touch with the breath, and we are not thinking so much. The mind is quiet, and so sometimes I'm wondering, so you can maybe even when your mind is like the nervous system is sort of so relaxed, you have imagery, maybe it's distant memories, a space where you've been when you were a child, or you have a beautiful sunshine that you see, or kind of very nice images. And I'm wondering if this is the moment to put an intention, so we're not attached to the imagery. Maybe the intention could be an example. It doesn't have to be this, but for example, to be specific, it could be you want to help someone in your family who's having a difficult time, or like you're having an argument with someone in your family, trying to make it better or something, you know, to get the relationship better. So just maybe your advice on that, if it's a good time to do this or not, or maybe it's a different type of meditation, perhaps.
Well, I see meditation as being something that's really rather organic. And as you may have gathered, I'm not so much advocating a particular technique of meditation. There are many teachers and traditions where there is a particular technique that people can train themselves to follow. But for me, what I see, it's very much more, and this is what Ajahn Chah would encourage, much more a kind of feeling out for yourself and trying different things. So in a sense, there's no particular right or wrong way to meditate. What's really important is the attitude. So if we're meditating to try and get into a particular state, or to hold on to a particular state that we like, or to return to a state that we have enjoyed in the past, I would suggest that that is not a suitable attitude, because you're either leaning into the future or getting stuck on something that happened in the past, trying to recreate something that happened in the past. But from what you described, that's not really what you're doing, but you're recognizing that, okay, sometimes the mind does get into a pleasant state, and just wondering about how to carry that forward, and whether it's good to use it as a time of reflection on ways that you could help and support, or whether something else should happen. And I think I would encourage you to try different things. There's nothing there's nothing wrong with just bringing up an intention. If it's like a way of sharing your practice with somebody else. You can dedicate your practice for their welfare. You can turn over in your mind possible courses of action that you can undertake.
Okay.
However, the trick with that is not to get too carried away. Sometimes if we have a good idea, we can actually lose focus, because the mind latches onto the idea, and you get carried away with it. And there's a wonderful phrase that I heard just recently, something like, if you have a good idea, don't let the devil know, because they'll come and organize it for you. Or they'll take it over. And I've noticed in my own practice that can happen. So personally, I prefer to kind of stay with the quiet of the mind during the time of practice. And then during the day, sometimes I might have an idea or a sense of what would be a helpful course of action.
Yeah.
But I think each of us has to find our own way. And I'm just really pointing to things that to watch out for, to be careful about, not to let the thinking mind take you away from the present moment. It's interesting, this wonderful sutta that I talk about quite often, where the Buddha, talks about skillful thought of kindness, compassion, generosity. But he also says that too much thinking and pondering, even on good thoughts, good wholesome thoughts, leads the mind to a kind of state of excitement and weariness. You exhaust yourself. So to keep an eye and just sort of maintain a sense of balance, a sense of calm, and it's okay to enjoy the quiet mind. Just to enjoy that is absolutely fine when those states arise, and then to notice how they change, and it can be very refreshing. So these are a few thoughts.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
That's fine. That's my pleasure. Yeah, we would have time for one more question if there's anybody else waiting, and if not, that's fine too.
Well, there's nothing in the chat.
Nothing in the chat.
No, not at the moment.
Well, I'd like to end with chanting the Buddha's words on loving kindness in English, just because this is a very, very helpful teaching. And I'll see if I can find what page it's on, so we can have the screen sharing happening. It's on page 37.
Right.
Chanting book. Is that going to work? And we can just gently chant this together. And this is one that you can turn to any time. It covers really every aspect of our practice. And I have to just, it talks about kindness towards all beings. And I'd like to really encourage you to include yourselves as part of all beings. So it's not everybody else out there, but it's we're part of all beings. So please remember that. So we'll do this chant and then we'll conclude with the closing homage in Pali language. Okay. So now let us chant the Buddha's words on loving kindness. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove, wishing in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born. May all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another, or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another, even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upwards to the skies and downwards to the depths, outwards and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness. One should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Closing homage. Page 28. Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhaṃ Bhagavantaṃ Abhivademi. Vakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammam Namasami. Supatitanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅgham Namami. So, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ajahn, for your teachings, not only today's, but also the previous ones this term. I hope you have a wonderful winter retreat. And I'd just like to mention to everybody that the next class will be on the 9th of January. Monday, the 9th of January, we start again. So I take this opportunity on behalf of us all to say thank you to the Buddhist Society for offering these classes and the opportunity to teach and to learn. And also to wish everybody a very happy Christmas and all the very best for the new year, especially to you, sister. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nick, for your hosting and everything else.